Step 1. Cut a piece of bubble wrap a little bit bigger than the device or the thing that you want to put in the pocket. This is because when we work with wool, it will shrink a little bit. To separate the wool, you want to pull away from your fingers, and you want to be about 1 inch to 1.5 inches apart from each other. So you pull against the sort of natural grain of the fibre rather than sort of peeling it off. This just makes it more wispy, and it means it will work better as you felt it together. So as you lay your wool down, you want to spray it with warm soapy water. Warm water works best, and I put the soap already in the bottle and sort of just mix it together. So this starts to sort of stick the wool together so that you can get an idea of your initial shape. As you're working over your little barrier, you want to make sure you go over the edges. That's really important. Make sure you get quite a thick coating over the whole of the shape. You also want to put some fibres that are vertical as well, so they're going up and down right across your shape, because we're going to wrap all of these excess fibres around the shape, which will make it sort of a solid little pocket rather than having gaps down the outside. Once you've sprayed your entire side with water and it's covered, you want to flip it over and fold all those strands into the reverse side. So the other side of your bubble wrap, you'll need some soapy water just to help stick it down. If you don't have a spray bottle, it's not the end of the world. Just get a bowl and some hand soap. I think most felt makers use like olive oil soap and olive soaps, but I just use a normal hand soap and it works fine. So you then want to cover this side again like you've just done before. I gave this one quite a thick coat. I think I went sort of 2 directions on it, just because I wanted to really make sure that it had a good coverage on that first layer. So the first layer that we put down is actually going to be on the inside of our case. So when you're felting, you kind of almost work in reverse. You sort of build the shape up. So the last layer of felt you put on is what's going to be seen. Finish that side and add lots of water and flip it over again and do exactly the same. Fold in those edges, fold in those sides, so I get a nice little compact shape. And I'm just flipping it around and making sure everything is nicely saturated and all sticking together. So the next thing I'm going to do is add in some more strands of a different colour. So in the end, I ended up doing about 2 to 3 different layers of the wool tops, which I would recommend doing at least 2 as an absolute minimum. Otherwise, it won't have enough felt, enough wool to give it a structure. So just keep going and adding more bits of wool. Okay, so you just want to keep flipping it over and adding more layers of different colours or the same colour, whatever you prefer, and just keep going really. So minimum of 2-3 layers. You can go up to like 4 or 5 if you want to. I like doing a bit of a mix of my layers, so not having solid colours a lot of the time. It can be quite fun, and just sort of having fun and seeing it develop. Once I got to this stage, I wanted to add a few sort of details. So I picked out a darker blue that I thought worked well with the palette. I went through a few different colours first, but I thought this blue worked really well. And I just add on a few of these strands. I tried to keep them relatively wispy. I wish I'd kept them a bit more so, because it would have made it a bit easier. I wrap them around like I would do with the sort of normal laying out of the wool, but I then joined them up on the back, or sort of made my design so they joined up. But you can do whatever you want. You could do a landscape, you could do a little animal, whatever you fancy really. So our next step is to cover it with bubble wrap, and we're just going to start rubbing quite gently to start off with, rubbing the bubble wrap onto the wool. So make sure it's nice and wet and it's nice and soapy as you start doing this. You'll notice that some of my details are trying to lift off, so I tried to correct that with a bit more wool, but it was just not having it. Sometimes the material just works against you, but you can fix it. It's all good. So just keep rubbing, and this is going to take quite a while. I was here for probably a good half an hour just felting this together. So this is the actual felting process. The first step is laying out. This is felting. So you want to make sure it keeps nice and soapy. Mine wasn't quite soapy enough, and you want to make sure it keeps nice and damp. So step 1, bubble wrap, and just keep rubbing that bubble wrap over the felt. Once it's starting to stick together a bit more, you can actually pick it up and just rub it in between your hands with the bubble wrap. So like make a bubble wrap sandwich and just rub it. This can be a lot quicker because you're getting both sides at the same time, and you can apply a bit more pressure. I also added a bit more soap. I'm just using, I think it's like a honey-based soap. It smells nice. It's just a normal hand soap, and I just added a bit more because it needed a little bit more suds to sort of help that wool really knit together. If you have a bamboo mat, you can also use that for this type of felting. Don't worry if you don't have one, just keep going with the bubble wrap in your hands. I used this bamboo wrap and just gave it a bit more of a rub in there just to sort of felt it a bit more. It's a bit quicker sometimes. Just be aware that it might try to stick to itself, so hence I keep opening it up and folding it back out. It's quite solid, you want to grab a pair of scissors and make a little hole to start with, sort of choose where the little opening is going to be so that you can actually put your phone in there, and just do a little cut across the edge. It will grow as you sort of work with the felt a bit more. You want to take your little barrier, your resist out, bubble wrap, and you'll be left with like a little pocket. But what we do need to do is make sure that we felt the end and we also felt the inside. So I recommend turning it inside out carefully so that you don't rip too far the little opening, and then just felt in exactly the same sort of process. You can put your hand inside it a little bit and rub it out in the bubble wrap. Make sure you pop out all the different corners and felt away. Once it's really sticking together, another method you can use is just screwing it up like a piece of paper. It can really help strengthen the felt that you create. You can then turn it back the right way around when you're happy. Once you've finished felting, you want to rinse it under a warm water tap and leave it somewhere to dry. Then you can use it or give it to a friend as a gift and keep their phone nice and snugly.